Hey guys, welcome back to the Another Excuse podcast, where we chat to founders, creators, and self-starters about how they started and where they are now. Today's guest is Kernahan, an extremely talented cinematographer. In the episode, we discuss how he discovered his passion, the challenges of pivoting and how to be successful in the industry, and monk mode and all of its benefits. It's a great episode, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Enjoy the show. Hey Cameron, thanks so much for joining me today. Just to get started, could you describe your profession and what you do?
Sure, 100%. So I am a cinematographer, and a lot of people don't know the sort of difference between videographer and cinematographer, but I just wanted to explain that very quickly because often there's a lot of confusion around the two roles in the industry. But I started out as a photographer, got into video as a videographer, and now I am working on finessing my skills as an expert in the field as a cinematographer. A cinematographer is someone who works on larger scale productions like TV commercials, film sets, and music videos. And they're responsible for the technical, or rather technicalities around cameras, so lenses, lighting, and running a full team. So quite a lot of theory and practical experience I've had to gone through over the years, specifically working in a film studio in Bulgaria to get to this point of, having extensive knowledge in crafting cinematography. So using high-end cinema cameras and expensive glass, which is a short slang word for lenses in the industry. So yeah, that's my main focus and role. And I've come a long way to get to this point.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so thank you for making the distinction between the two. And so how did you get into cinematography? Where did it all start? You touched on it a bit, you started photography, but how did that all begin and how did you end up here?
I was working in a corporate industry where I was an operations manager for a ticketing company. So I was running the doors to major events across South Africa, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. And I was just responsible for managing the access control of customers buying their tickets and then on site running the logistics for the doors. I was always really good with tech. I would say that I'm quite tech savvy. And as a child, always used to play with my mother's digital camera, take pics. And I was always into anything that sort of had a battery and could switch on, coming from Game Boys and PlayStation. And long story short, I was asked by my boss to go to one of the events. They gave me a camera and they said, could I please take some videos of the event, and they'll pay me 500 Rand at the time. And for me, I was like, cool, extra a few bucks in my pocket. Why not? Let me give this a shot. So I went to the event and I filmed it. I went home that same evening and I sat by my computer. I remember using a program called iMovie, and I edited the video with a really cool soundtrack. And the next day in the office, I showed them this video. And the reaction I got from the marketing team was, I'll never forget that day and that feeling, I had a rewarding feeling of I had some sort of talent, because they were quite taken back by the fact that with zero experience, I was able to go to an event, film, edit, and the next day showcase a fully edited video, which in their eyes was almost seen as professional. So from that moment, I instantly knew that filmmaking, photography, and anything to do with the creative sphere was for me.
That's amazing. It's so crazy how, like, one little opportunity can change the trajectory and direction of your life completely. That's
No,
amazing. And
100%. One moment, yeah.
yeah, would you say you love what you do?
No, absolutely love what I do. So from that moment, I knew that that didn't feel like work to me. It felt like having fun. And I knew instantly that this was my passion. And one thing I didn't elaborate on was when I got this feeling that this could be a career for me, I started taking photos at the event. So I didn't leave the job. I started this hobby of photography, going to the events where I was originally working as my role as access manager, operations manager. And I slowly started taking photos. And quite an interesting thing that happened to me was a lady at one of the events saw my photography and she said, "Can I buy these photographs?" And I quickly went home and I created an invoice the first time. But I never would have known how to create an invoice without the first-hand experience working at this corporate job. So I created the invoice. I charged her 35 Rand an image. I think there was 40 images. And if I'm doing the math correctly, I think I may have put a bit of a discount there or added bits and bobs, maybe if the numbers don't add up if you're doing the math. But I made 650 Rand. I remember that figure clearly, 35 Rand a photo and 650 Rand. And from that moment, I knew this is passion and something that can make a living for myself, you know? So I put two and two together there. I took something that I absolutely loved, that was a hobby that I'm so passionate about, and I monetized it. And ever since that day, I've dedicated my life to this craft.
That's awesome. And it's amazing that you were able to monetize something you're passionate about really quickly. It seemed like that sort of feedback loop happened pretty quickly in comparison to some people who may be passionate about something but unsure how to monetize it, or wanting to monetize it but being nervous to do so. And so it seems like you're very lucky in that sense, where like you got that feedback loop really quickly. You knew you could make money from it, and it all just snowballed from there.
I believe that if you follow your passion, it becomes a consequence. It comes naturally, because I didn't know how I would have made money from this, but because I cared so much about lighting, composition, angles, I took photos at this one event. You know, it was a couple events down the line, and this lady saw this in the imagery of how I made her look so, um, beautiful in in the environment. And for her, she was willing to exchange monetary. So it came naturally. I did not expect, but that moment was pure proof that if I'm putting in this amount of effort in this beginning stage, imagine if I put my full mind to it, and my full time. Yeah, so that's just a testament to that. Exactly what you're saying.
100%. Yeah. And some someone willing to part with their hard-earned money for your sort of work and services is the best validation you can get. It's proof that whatever you're doing is actually worth it and good enough. I've been following your journey for a while, and it's obvious that you put in the work. What gives you the drive to put in those late hours and grind so hard?
What really inspires me to put in the hours is goes back to that initial feeling of that day when my work was, you know, seen as something that inspires people and was commended for being exceptional or somewhat inspiring. So that initial feeling for me, if I'm putting in late hours, when I deliver the final product to the client and I get those messages of thanks and gratitude that they are so happy and that I have made their business, their service, or their product, look appealing to their audience, that for me is really rewarding. So don't get me wrong, sometimes when you're putting in those late hours, editing a video to 3 in the morning, going above and beyond for your clients, it does get challenging. There are times where naturally as a human, you feel like you want to give up, or you're frustrated, you feel stuck, stressed. And sometimes I just need to walk away from the project. So essentially, to sum it up in one sentence, what makes me put in those extra hours is to receive that rewarding feeling from a client that I'm creating a product or video for.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so putting in those long hours and focusing on one thing, which is your work, usually means you have to make sacrifices. What sort of sacrifices have you had to make to head in your intended direction?
So the sacrifices I've had to make is my social life. I'm unable to go to events. For example, this week there was, and the nature of the game, there was an issue where I had to step into an edit because the editor I was working with was unable to complete the project. So it was a bit of a curveball, and last minute I had to come save the day. And I spent 48 hours, obviously with some rest in between, going full force into this project and editing. So I was meant to attend an event that Wednesday evening. That was cancelled. I was meant to attend a gym class that I committed to with a friend. I had to cancel on that just because of the deadline. So with the film industry and video, often the deadlines are quite tight, and that calls and requires you're not working 9 to 5 and then after 5 you go home, you have your time off. If this video is due Friday, 5 p.m., close of business, I have to do everything in my capacity within my schedule to meet that deadline. So the sacrifice would be sleep, missing events. And it's quite difficult because even though some people say if you really want something, you'll make time for it, like going to the gym. I do believe that to a certain degree, but I only have, it's now 1:30. We're doing this call. After this call, I'm going straight back into an edit. I've got 3 hours to make this deadline. There is no time for gym. So those are the sort of sacrifices you make, even though you want to have balance. My industry sometimes does not allow that. The deadlines, if you may call it, are somewhat unreasonable. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. If you want this opportunity and project, the client says to you, hey, Cameron, can you film this video, but I need it by Friday. I'm not going to turn it down if I know I can pull it off and I want to be involved in something of that nature. So there are many sacrifices, family, friends, personal life, health and fitness, and also a bit of sanity. Sometimes with the creative, you get into a rut and you feel like your work's not good enough, or you overthink it. But it gets better with time, and I always overcome those obstacles. A lot to sacrifice, and there are other aspects of my life that are sacrificed that I can't think of right now, and that would be like things like able to grow and develop and earn annuity income. But right now I'm focused on being an artist and a creative. But I've realized that, my time's limited. When you sell your time, or your labor for money, there's only a certain amount of hours you can do. So I'm often, to be quite honest and frank with you, I am at this age of 29 going into my 50s thinking, is it worth it? Do I want to become a business owner one day? Do I want to be more entrepreneurial, build something online that has annuity? Those are the sacrifices. Is I'm limiting sort of my growth, and I do think of that. But I think in the future with balance, perhaps I can have that online store and sell creative LUTs, we call them, and sound packs and courses. And I can also do my editing. But right now, it's all in the editing.
100%. Well, it shows that you're obviously aware of the balance and that you need to make the sacrifice at the moment to build towards that entrepreneurial annuity lifestyle in the future. But it makes sense. Like you've got to pick a lane, pick something to double down on at the moment in order to have that future. It can't all happen at the same time. And so, yeah, big ups to you for making those sacrifices. You got to do what it takes. And it shows people,
Appreciate it.
what it takes to actually make it in a really tough competitive industry. So videography may be considered less of a stable job, or freelancing in general, should I say. So what has your support system been like throughout your career? Have they been very supportive of your career and things like that?
It goes back to sort of my last point is, yes, fortunately, my support system has been sort of, they encourage me to pursue my passion and my dream. I'm trying to think back to the days of where I required sort of financial support, being an entrepreneur. But yes, I would say that my family and friends around me, even colleagues in the industry or clients, have been supportive, where it's very tough in this day and age being a freelancer, because not always are your terms honored, and I think a lot of filmmakers will agree with me. And remember, when you start out, a videographer, as you said, deemed or sort of seen as a stereotype in the industry, isn't essentially the most profitable and stable job. But as I grew, I hit a ceiling, and that's when I decided to go to Bulgaria, work in a film studio with the likes of, I got to be on set with Sylvester Stallone for his Rambo 5 Last Blood Knife movie, Kate Beckinsale in Jolt, and I worked with David Hasselhoff. So I was with the movie stars on set, and that's when my knowledge expanded rapidly in those 6 months, because I was, in Hollywood, inverted commas. So I was then able to transition from a videographer, and I didn't run over it earlier, but a videographer is just someone with a camera who can shoot and edit. Again, a cinematographer who can specialize in the art of lighting a scene and replicating a scene. So if you're filming a movie scene where it's a child's bedroom and there's moonlight, how does a cinematographer take the space, the type of camera, the right sensor, which is in the camera? So he now has to pick the right sensor and camera for the job. Different cameras are more sensitive to light, where others are designed for underwater filmmaking. And you then pick the right camera, the right lenses for the job that's going to give the right look for the director, as well as having a team around you, which we call the gaffer. He's head of lighting, and he has a team below him called a spark, an electrician. Those are the sort of supporting structure to his team. I work closely with my lighting team, the gaffer and his support structure, to light the scene and make it look like a Hollywood blockbuster scene or movie out of any sort of page of any book that the director wants to tell that story. So with that sort of progress in my career, a cinematographer becomes, even being a freelancer, more stable financially, because you earn a lot more. Some cinematographers, if you go look up online and Google this stuff, the older, more established cinematographers, they work on one movie a year, or not even one movie every 5 years, and they're sorted for 3 years of living because they get paid a few million US. But these guys are in their 50s, 60s. They've got decades of knowledge, and that's why they're chosen. So yes, in the beginning, it was quite tough, and I'm going a bit off topic here, but I just want everyone to understand that the field is so broad. Where you start out, you could just stay a videographer or photographer and not look to, work your way up the ranks to master your craft. But in the beginning, it was really tough. People were very supportive of it. Clients were supportive. There were often times that I could get a loan to support buying equipment, and very fortunate to say now that I'm more experienced. I'm able to earn more on a film set and manage, those financial situations a lot better. But then again, freelancing isn't always the most stable.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as I noticed, I used the word videographer in my question, but it's cinematographer. And what kind of work are you looking to go into as a cinematographer? Like, what are you working on at the moment? What type of work?
I'm really inspired by narrative content. So if you go and if you go and look on Netflix, there's I think it's called Deep Blue, or forgive me for missing the title. I watched it last night, and the story's still lingering in the back of my mind because it's such a deep story. If you haven't watched it, it's about a free diving Italian woman who, achieves monumental world records in free diving, and is coached by this guy from Ireland. It's an incredible romantic story that one has never really seen in a documentary style film. That really inspired me to get involved in this sort of style of filmmaking. I've come from a background of commercials and music videos. I'm now veering more towards storytelling. Why? It's more rewarding. You're telling stories that are real. It's nonfiction. It has a moral at the end of the story. It tells people about values, about humanity, and it's also very relatable to the viewer, through emotions. This documentary in itself made me tear up. Those ones that just hit the heartstrings. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm veering towards, is storytelling, which is more film, movie making, short form content like documentaries and TV series. Anything in that sort of space, but more non-fictional, really entices me to get involved in nowadays.
That sounds amazing. And I can also see an appeal from the experience side of things, but it's like world experience side of things, where if you're creating commercials and music videos, you're not really venturing that far out of your surroundings, whereas a documentary could take you all around the world, meeting new people and different cultures. And so there's so much more opportunity for life experience creating documentaries.
100%, and it's more real. You connect
Yeah.
to people,
Yeah.
and it's quite emotive. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's sort of why I'm trying to get out of corporate. I'm trying to get out of the pretentious world, if I may, for a lack of a better word, and hit home. Start telling real stories. Talk about climate change. It's a very touchy
Yeah.
subject, but I want to leave a legacy. I want to do something that matters. Now with
Definitely.
me maturing and seeing a cause for just doing some good in this world, and uh, leaving a legacy.
Definitely. Is it tough sort of pivoting in the industry? So if you have like a track record and all your work is done in a particular area, is it tough pivoting into a new area that you may not have as much experience in?
Yes. So I'm sort of in if you was to say I would live to 100, almost in a just over a quarter life crisis, because getting into this industry 6 years ago, I thought, all about the money, chasing the brands and doing the commercials and just feeding the system. Soon now, nearing my age of 30, I'm having a transitional sort of period in my maturity, and I have a yearning, as I said, to do more and do better for humanity. I now have to reinvent myself. So I have to, as a filmmaker, and all, if not most, filmmakers will agree, you've got to do so many passion projects where you invest your own money. I've got to go and just start shooting short form content. I've got to start working on sets where they're doing narratives, they're doing documentaries, they're doing, and I love the movie space, I love the TV series space, but I want to tell true stories. That's art to me. Like it's these blockbusters and these fictional movies are fun to watch, but I really love something that's relative to what's really happened in the world and tells a true story. I don't really want to shoot Avengers. So I now have to, and it's going to take a good year or two. It's just the name of the game. It's decades of experience, this filmmaking stuff. That's why in the interim, I would like to work on some other business models like online e-commerce, selling knowledge, teaching people this stuff. That's one of the things I'm working on. But I've got to now go and build a portfolio, shooting loads of frames. When I say frames, clients, agencies, Netflix, they all want to see, okay, what has Cameron worked on? Right now, if you go look at my work, a lot of it is bars, restaurants, particularly in London. Because funny thing is, now that everyone understands videographer, cinematographer in terms of the rankings in the industry, I worked up to a cinematographer in South Africa for 5 years. I've come here now for not even 6 months, and I was downgraded, I feel like, to a videographer. Coming to London, to the UK, I started from the bottom. So I'm looking to go back to Cape Town now for a summer season, because freelancers like to chase seasons because that's where the work is. Speak to a supermodel, they only work the summers. They're not going to sit in winter in Cape Town because there's no work. You're not going to be posing on the beach for a bikini shoot. So my thinking now and my thought process, I'm going to reinvent Cameron Kernahan as a cinematographer, and I'm now going to start shooting movie-like frames. I'm not going to chase the money and, we want to do, yes, a commercial will come here and there, but my focus, I want to start telling stories, get really creative with set design. It could be an African in the bush telling an amazing story about the sand people. That's really cool. That's native. That's something that inspires me, the cradle of humankind. It could be an American in the sort of, sorry, I just got distracted there by a call from a client. I'm just going to mute my computer. Please bear with me. It could be anything from, like you said, I could travel with this stuff. I could go to Iceland and tell stories about the native people there. That would be really interesting. How is Iceland such a functioning place where it's so extremely cold and the weather conditions there are extreme? This is where I need to position myself. And quite frankly, that's going to come at a cost. I'm going to have to do that on my own accord, because you don't just, Cameron, you've got a whole bunch of commercial work. Can you come work on this Netflix series? So yeah, I'm going to be working with some creatives, already spoken to them back home in Cape Town. We're going to grab a cinema camera, and it's all about the hustle. We're going to approach some of the gear houses, friends we know who own these R1 million cinema cameras, and they go out at 40,000 Rand a day. So it's a complete hustle, this industry. It doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of trial and tribulation, excuse the cliche. But we're going to grab this camera. We're going to get some friends together who are keen to do this for free. And we're going to create some movie-like looking frames, whatever the story may be. And slowly but surely, I'll build this portfolio up and eventually be recognized as someone who tells stories. And I've only learned this after about 5 to 6 years of being in the industry. I didn't know your whole Instagram has to be flooded with the sort of work that you do. And Byron, to answer your question, as you know, I like to waffle, in short, and is that, yes, you become recognized for the work you do. So if you only shoot cars, you're not going to be asked to do a music video for some big artists. They're going to only refer to you as a filmmaker, cinematographer who shoots vehicles and in the motor industry.
Quick interruption from me. The podcast is starting to gain traction, which is amazing, and thank you so much for the support. If I could ask you to do one little thing, could you please rate this podcast on whichever podcast platform you listen on? That little action goes a lot further than you think and would really help the podcast grow. Thanks in advance. I really appreciate it. Back to the episode. Yeah, that's such a valuable lesson. I think it can be transferred over to to everything. It is more common in like cinematography and videography where you have to build a portfolio and take it on yourself to sort of show people the work you want to create. But a lot of people don't consider that in other businesses and career paths where like you could have that side project and show people that, look, I can do X, Y, and Z that may not necessarily be in the pigeonhole that I've been pigeonholed in. And that can create opportunities. But it's like you've got to take responsibility and actually take action on those. And which is obviously what you're doing. And so I'm looking forward to what you create in Cape Town. What has been the hardest part of your career so far?
If I could think about that for a few seconds. Funny enough, your questions are so relative to the previous one. I would say the hardest part has been I've been pigeonholed as this guy who is just this videographer, and they don't know that I've put in the hours and the work and that I understand lighting. I know how to diffuse light quite well. I know how to balance light. I know how to use sort of colors to achieve certain types of day or environments. They just think I'm someone with a camera. So I've been pigeonholed as someone who, shoots bars and clubs and events. And when I came to London, I was in monk mode. So I did 90 days was my goal to not drink, take any narcotics or anything. And yeah, I came here and I was just shooting bars and clubs all the time where I was around alcohol and people partying. And I was totally not in that mindset at all. And I'm just like, what am I doing, with my life and my career? Because I'm here with the camera. And quite frankly, I am much more qualified than this. And I'm just shooting, bars and clubs, something I don't align to. So the hardest part is, and a lesson I advise everyone listening to this is, and it can be in any industry, make sure you think about it. I didn't. I jumped straight into the deep end. Think about what you want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, then take my path and just do everything. And then you'll find what you want to do. I know what I want to do now. It's stories, documentaries, movies, TV series with meaning and that are true stories, non-fictional. But because I spent so many years building this portfolio of brands that I don't even support, and like alcohol, I did a lot of alcohol commercials. And now I'm not even like a huge drinker at all. Yes, I finished monk mode and I don't mind a beverage now and then. I know you completely abstain from it, which I want to get to a point. I'm inspired by that of completely abstaining. But I didn't want to be involved in that. I don't want to support those industries. I want to support sustainable brands, organic foods, because I see a better and brighter future. So now I'm really making a conscious effort to put forward and accept jobs that are going to align me to where I want to get to and what I want to be shooting. So again, my advice to people is have an idea and goal in mind of what you want to be aligned to within your industry, what field you want to work in, which type of people you want to work with, and only put that out there. Don't say yes to everything. I said yes to too much, and I'm now putting my foot down and realizing it's okay to take a step back, slow down, say no to that club job. Yes, if it's going to be an extra £500 that's going to contribute to your rent, trust me, the time that you take to skip that and you maybe spend that time working online and doing some research on a narrative you want to tell, that's going to pay off a lot better in the future because you're going to be happy doing what you want to do. And yeah, that pretty much answers that. The toughest thing is being labeled as something that I don't want to be labeled as a cinematographer, and now I have to rebuild that, but at least I have the skills and experience.
Yeah, definitely. That is tough and great advice. So you touched on it a bit where you have this network in South Africa, but you've recently made a move to London. So what made you make that move? As I'm sure it is tough starting at ground zero.
I ask myself this question every day. I thought that South Africa is in a very challenging position at the moment, with given its circumstances with the electricity crisis. And I thought, and when I say thought, perhaps I may have been wrong, because the grass isn't always greener. Because I sacrificed lifestyle. I came to the United Kingdom thinking that it is, the land of opportunity and a better life. But I was just following some sort of bandwagon to say, oh, let me go to Europe. Well, it's not even Europe, but let me go to a first world country where everything works and it's safe, and I'm just going to, land better opportunities, and just leave South Africa behind. But shortly, I realized that it's not always about, the glam and being in a cosmopolitan city where celebrities walk around and you're going to make so many pounds and the currency is stronger. Yes, perhaps for some it may be the truth, but for me, I felt like I left a lot of my lifestyle behind. Access to affordable fitness and running or not even affordable fitness, but nature, like running on Table Mountain, going for a swim in the ocean and keeping fit. I put on 5 kilograms coming to London, even though I made an effort to run in all the parks when it was freezing cold in February. I felt like I've left a lot behind and I've kind of lost myself. This is just my own personal experience and opinion. And I will come back one day when I'm more prepared, when I've got more money in the bank. I have those narrative frames on my portfolio, and I'm ready to tackle London as a storytelling filmmaker. But right now, I don't believe the grass is always greener. South Africa is my home. I'm going to go back there for a summer season. We'll see what happens next European UK summer. Perhaps I'll be back. Perhaps I'll be in America, Mexico. You never know. I'm going to go where I'm needed. I'm going to go where, as you said, I could find myself traveling the world, mixing with cultures. But yeah, I kind of, to this day, not too sure why. I think it was quite an impulsive decision. Somewhat kind of have regrets, because I think it's been really tough adjusting here. There is a standard of living crisis here. There's a housing crisis here. It's hard to find accommodation, especially if you want to live on your own and have serenity and in a holistic environment. I do find the environments here quite toxic. It's a large drinking culture. My best year of my life was in Cape Town. I grew up in Johannesburg my whole life. I did 1 year in Cape Town. I was the fittest I ever was. I was never a runner. I ran a half marathon, and then I went to London, and I felt like everything went downhill. So, lot to reconsider. Just my honest talking from my personal experience. And yeah, I'm very excited to go back to my roots and engulf myself in nature and be connected to my community. And one more thing I will say, I thought it was going to be much easier here coming here as a cinematographer and reaching Hollywood heights, and close to David Beckham and all the celebs. I just bump into them on the street and boom, my career would have been made. But I was very humbled, and I actually realized that back home, speaking to even some of my friends, they said, come back, man. We've got the cinema cameras. What are you doing there? A good German friend of mine, he's been all around the world, New York, London, Germany. He's lived in Cape Town for 15 years. He says, why do you think I live in Cape Town? I've got the life here. Lacquer, cheap meat, throw it on the braai, and it tastes good. It's quality. So yeah, he said, come back. You've got access to cameras here. You're going to do so much better, so much faster if you just come back. You've got resources, networks, and a community that's willing to support you back in Cape Town. So you should definitely consider it. And I've given it a lot of thought. And yeah, that's where I need to position myself as a freelance filmmaker.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, you would have never known if you didn't take that leap and test out the waters in the UK. And now you're like doing the summer period in SA and you're more sure about it and confident in the decision and doubling down on your network and what's going to come of it. So really looking forward to it. And you've touched on monk mode, and I want to get into sort of mental health and stuff a bit. Could you explain what exactly monk mode entails and what came of it, like how you responded to it?
So basically, I went through a period where I was South African, grew up, and binge drinking was sort of accepted as the norm. 16, you go out, being disobedient, drinking underage at parties, underage drinking. 18 comes, you go on matric vac, which is our spring break after we matriculate. A lot of drinking and always at a braai. It became very acceptable to drink quite regularly. And after years of doing this, I was following a guy by the name of Iman Gadzi, who I find quite inspiring as an entrepreneur. And I wouldn't say he coined the phrase, maybe he did, but he was talking about it in one of his YouTube videos where monk mode is 6 months. I did my own version of it, 3 months, but it's 6 months of no drinking, meditating every single day, and exercising every single day. So at the end of December last year, 2022, I just had enough. I was drinking so much, going to parties, and I just felt terrible. My mind wasn't clear. I just felt my body didn't feel healthy. I hated being hungover. I wasn't clear the next day. And on the 23rd of December, after a night out, I decided that's it. I'm going to give this monk mode a shot and I'm going to abstain from drinking. I don't need this. I don't want to drink. I want to focus on building myself, and I want to focus on my fitness, and I want to focus on my business. So I set a challenge every day, just sit on my bed for 10 minutes and just close my eyes and meditate. 10 minutes was all I needed. I wouldn't drink. As drinking includes no smoking, no narcotics. I don't smoke cigarettes, but anything like marijuana or what have you, you cannot have this during the practice of monk mode. And then the third thing, exercise every day. I was already running 3 to 5 times a week. I was quite an avid runner in Cape Town. And I embarked this journey of monk mode, and I loved it. The first week was incredible. The first month was incredible. I didn't even find it hard. I was just so fed up with drinking. I didn't even find it tempting. This is in the first month. I feel like a drink. I'm really craving going out and getting rowdy with the boys. If I did, I would just have water or a non-alcoholic beverage. And I felt the best I've ever felt in my life. I had so much energy. I'd wake up early. I'd exercise. I was in great shape. I was fit. And the paradox is, shortly after that, the end of January, I got an opportunity. So I'm now 1 month into monk mode. I got an opportunity to go to Mexico. And I took this opportunity and I still continued my monk mode. And on the way to Mexico, I stopped by London and I had this epiphany, this impulsive decision I spoke about earlier. Let me go and try London and give London a bash. And let me move there. And on my way back from Mexico, I landed in London and I had my camera stuff and I started crashing on a friend's couch. They are my school friends, grew up with them. We used to binge drink all the time. And I was very strong and I didn't drink. Every time I was around them, I stuck by my monk mode. I used to run in the park every single day, do my meditation and not drink. And it was amazing. Then slowly into month 2, I did get a few temptations, naturally as a man would. Growing up with it, I thought, I really could do with a beer or a night out. And then, long story short, month 3 came and I was just pushing hard and I was so determined to do the 90 days that I did it. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life. 90 days of no alcohol, no narcotics, 10 minutes of meditation and exercise at least once a day for 30 to 45 minutes. It could be a light jog, push-ups, sit-ups, or what have you. And I was shredded. I was great body, felt great, mind was clear, and then it all went downhill as things happen in life. And I don't beat myself up for it. We make mistakes, or it wasn't even a mistake. It was just a phase. I started drinking again. I said, come on, let's have 90 days is up. Let's celebrate. Monk mode is over. And I had a few drinks with the boys. And then ever since that day, I would like go out on the weekends. Not too much, but I'm getting to that point again where I'm like, it doesn't serve me. Now that I've done it once before, I'm not even going out that much. I'm always skipping the nights out, actually. I'm invited to it. But yeah, that's pretty much monk mode. And I think there will be a time now where I'm going to consider entering it again. Perhaps, we're coming to a new month. We're on the 20, what is the date today? The
28th.
Yeah, I could, after this call, give me some time to sit with myself. Perhaps August is the start of a new monk mode. But yeah, there's a lot of perspective. The London lifestyle hasn't really suited me personally, because I started drinking again. I put on 6 kilograms, and the exercise radically declined in the amount of times I've been doing exercise. I'm now back into it. I'm going to this gym called Metabolic. It's an insane workout where it's 8 stations and you spend 4 minutes on each station. Vigorous exercise. I'm loving it. I'm feeling back in my body again. I'm drinking a lot less, maybe 1 or 2 beers on the weekend with a mate. But yeah, that's pretty much monk mode. I think it is really healthy. I follow a lot of inspiring people on Instagram who've completely quit alcohol. The old Spider-Man, I can't remember his name. He doesn't drink at all. I think he's on 2 years now. And they constantly give you feedback that improved memory, clear brain, focus, energy levels, better recovery from exercise. There's all these benefits. So I highly recommend monk mode if you've never done it in your life. I now thank you for bringing this up. Have some insight into really looking into this and really thinking about what am I doing with my habits.
Yeah, I agree. It's changed my life. Stopping for 3.5 years now, and mine was like medically induced. I was sort of forced into it, but it's completely changed, and like all those benefits are true. And I think is it Tom Holland on Jay Shetty's podcast recently spoke about him not drinking, and yeah, it's true. And I'd also say like give it a go, 90 days, try monk mode, and just see what it's like. It also puts that relationship with alcohol into perspective and shows that you don't need to rely on it, and then you're more in control of the decisions you make and what you put into your body. I know
100%.
you're a constant learner, always looking to grow as a person or build on your current skill set like we touched on. Is there anything you're working on at the moment or trying to improve?
Always. A filmmaker will always learn every single day of his life. It is such a vast, ever-growing, evolving industry with technology, and no filmmaker knows everything. We're all learning together because it's the science of light, It's basically capturing light onto a digital sensor which man has created. So yeah, I'm always doing courses. Sam Calder's DaVinci Resolve course is something I'm going to be working on now because I currently edit on Premiere Pro. I want to look at DaVinci Resolve. But yeah, I would say I'm trying to think of, I should be doing more now that you brought it to my attention, like reading up on doing lighting courses and stuff. But as I said earlier, I know that in my 50s and 60s is where you will flourish as a cinematographer. It's just how it works. I'm not too sure why. It's completely opposite to footballers. Footballers retire after a certain age. 35 is when they start getting a bit rusty. The knees start breaking down. But go look at the greatest cinematographers of this time: James Cameron, Richard Dawkins. One of my favorites is he just did the Oppenheimer movie. Have you watched the film?
I haven't seen it yet.
Christopher Nolan, one absolute genius. These guys are married with kids. They're in their 40s, 50s. They're very established artists in their field. And I know it's going to take me years and years of working on set. Practically, I learned faster on set. When you work with high-end directors or photographers, which is another word for cinematographer, which is essentially a evolved videographer. I learn on set, but I should be doing courses, handbooks, reading loads of books to develop my cinematography skills. But to answer your question, it's because I'm actually the world is evolving quite a lot right now. And yes, I will always love cinematography, but I'm thinking that at this time of my life, I may want to get more involved in e-commerce and selling my knowledge. So teaching people how to become a videographer. I haven't mastered cinematography. I'm getting good at it. I'm an aspiring up-and-coming cinematographer, but I can teach people how to create incredible videos on their iPhone. So I'm building a course right now. I don't want to say too much about it because I haven't released it. I've just been writing the script, and I filmed it, but I want to refilm it because I want to put more love and value into it. But I want to do an iPhone masterclass. There's a lot of professional videos I've shot on my iPhone, and people don't even know it. They think I use the camera or a Sony. But one thing I found is the iPhone is an amazing professional tool, which you can, utilize to actually make money from it and do professional content for brands. And even for your own brand or product or service, you can just use your iPhone and whip up incredible videos. So yeah, I'm working on I'm not doing too much of my own research and studying at this point. Maybe when I'm a bit older, I'll do bits and bobs, but I'm not fully engulfed in it because I'm looking to teach people the basics. And I think I'll learn a lot. I love teaching. So I'm looking at releasing an iPhone masterclass.
Awesome. Yeah. And even the whole process of distributing it, filming it, making sure you keep people's attention, selling it, all of that stuff it's a learning process in of itself. So,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that sounds awesome. And I've actually looked at the Sam Calder DaVinci Resolve course because I use DaVinci Resolve to
Oh,
edit my
nice.
videos, learned a bit about color
Incredible.
grading and stuff like that. So, yeah, I love it, and it's adding such great features to the platform all the time that it's awesome. Where you
Yeah,
buy it
no,
once off,
DaVinci is definitely the way. It's
yeah.
definitely the way. You buy it once
So
off, you have it forever. I
yeah,
just am so, used to Premiere. I can't switch right now. I'm too busy. I'm editing projects all the time.
yeah, 100%. So before we wrap up, if you had to give some advice to someone who wanted to get into the industry, what would you tell them?
My advice would be community. Sam Calder even has this, and I haven't joined it myself. Just I haven't, the financial means to allocate funds to this. But I've heard a friend of mine is part of it, Calder Creative. Nowadays, everything's online. It's about community and networks. Join a Discord channel. Join Calder Creative and befriend these people and go and work on film sets with them. That's the quickest way you're going to learn. Don't go to film school. I'm all self-taught from YouTube, but even better than YouTube is community and people. If you can get onto film sets as a trainee and assistant and do it for free, I've done so much for free in this industry. You've got to be very humble. Filmmaking, anyone can now make a film. Look at technology nowadays. You're editing on DaVinci Resolve, and your main career isn't even filmmaking. I bet you can do a stellar professional job editing because the tools are there. They're very user friendly nowadays. If you just put a bit of effort into it, you can learn professional video editing lighting and filming. So yeah, I just suggest getting on set, get your hands dirty, get practical, see how lights are set up, understand how light, it's all good going to school, reading books, being in a classroom, lectures, all these design schools you have. But I think that's old, that's archaic. There's a new way of learning now because humans have rapidly evolved with technology and having the internet. Do a bunch of courses on YouTube, do a bunch of paid courses through like guys like Sam Calder and all the others that are selling these, reputable creatives that are amazing at their craft. But again, get on these film sets, go work in person, meet people, shake hands, put in hard work, and again, get your hands dirty. And another bit of advice, work in all fields. When I went to Bulgaria, I did an internship at this film, it's a film studio, and I worked in every single department: lighting, script writing, directing, camera department. I even worked in wardrobe for a whole week. It was very mind-numbing, but you learn how important attention to detail and costumes are and how they make a film. So yeah, that's pretty much my advice. And follow your passion. If you're really passionate about camera, then yes, work in all aspects to understand the full industry, but really commit to studying every single camera there is on this planet and learn why they're used for different films and different outcomes.
That's great advice. Awesome. Thank you. And so my final question is quite a selfish one. How do you think I can improve this show? With your lighting expertise, I was considering doing a dark background, but I'm not sure. What do you think?
So, two things. Don't let the guys ramble as much as I did because I like to talk. I'm extremely passionate, but I could maybe I haven't, but I
No,
could be
it was
boring
perfect.
some people. Um, I appreciate that. Maybe I'm just being too self-conscious here, but I know I like to talk quite a lot. I wish with my answers, just not even in this podcast, but in life, I could be more concise, summarized, and to the point. But then again, I am very passionate, as you can tell. I want people to not make the same mistakes as as I did, because I want them to accelerate their progress in their
100%.
career. It's
Yeah,
frustrating being an entrepreneur or a freelancer. I had to do it all myself. I'm not guaranteed a salary at the end of the month. It can be really hard. I've had many times where I've hit rock bottom, but it's made me stronger and it's thrilling. That's the first bit of advice. Just or if not, your
yeah.
viewers, sorry, your speakers get to the point and not veer off too much, because I felt like I may have veered off, but if you didn't, then that's great.
No,
And then the
that's the
second
point.
bit,
The point of
the
this is
second
for everyone to just speak their mind and share everything. So it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that honest feedback. The second bit for you, is this more of, let me ask you a question. Is this a visual thing or only audio? Or it
It's
is a visual
visual.
thing?
Yeah, visual and audio.
Yeah, if I was you, I'd get like some cool neon sign. Uh, what's your channel called? Another Excuse.
Yeah,
Yeah, get a neon sign made. You can get them online. Uh, Another Excuse. They're not expensive. Get that epic neon sign made, maybe in color. You can also get some tubes, colored LED tubes, and I would really light up and create an environment in your space that it looks like a full-on studio where you're interviewing people. Go look at anyone's YouTube channel. It's actually not that hard. You can get some cool backgrounds, like you could build just like a black background with some texture.
yeah,
Uh, you know,
that's what I
People
was thinking.
use like 3D sort of polystyrene, but they paint it. So in camera, it's going to look amazing. You just need to do a bit of set design. That's what I would say. I would make your studio, Byron's studio, another Excuse, like really colorful and edgy and cool. You just look at any of the best YouTubers that do a load of videos from their studio for inspiration. And yeah, that's definitely going to sort of up the production value of the interviewer, Byron. I think that'd be really cool. And then it's up to us as the speakers if I had a bit more time this week and I wasn't editing this project, I would have completely lit myself and put a whole bunch of things in the background and done props. But again, as you know, the sacrifices as a filmmaker, I am working on a tremendous, a massive project that I'm very excited to share with you all. Twalu Kalahari. I went and shot a 6-star game reserve in the Kalahari, and that's due today. So I'm very my adrenaline's pumping because I'm very excited to deliver this piece of content to the client.
Awesome. So, I won't keep you from editing any longer. So thanks for joining me today, Cameron. I really enjoyed our chat. So before we go, if people want to learn more about you and follow your journey, where can they do so?
Yeah, sure. Just go to my website, www.cameronkernahan.com, if you want to see my latest show reel and just have a little bit about a biography about myself, where I'm from, how I got here. And then if you want to follow my Instagram page, it's Cameron Kernahan. And I'm pretty much, as I said during this interview, I'm reinventing myself. I'm looking to become a narrative cinematographer and director of photography, focusing on storytelling of non-fictional, true stories and documentaries. And this journey is going to be exciting. I'm working on an iPhone masterclass to teach you all how to create professional videos just from the iPhone in your pocket. And that's pretty much the new chapter and start of my next journey that I will be embarking on the 1st of September in Cape Town. So that's where you can check me out. Thank you so much for having me on this, Byron. I'm really looking forward to seeing this grow, and you're doing a great thing here. It's very exciting.
Thanks, Cameron. Thanks again for joining me, and looking forward to your new chapter. Looking forward to following along.
Thank you, brother. Much love. Hopefully we see each other soon before I head out of London.
Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the episode. One more quick reminder before you go. I have a weekly newsletter by the same name, Another Excuse, where I cover 4 topics: something that has changed my perception, a tool that could be useful to you, content that is actually worth consuming, and a concept that I try break down and explain. If this sounds of any interest to you and you need a kick up the arse, then you can subscribe at the link below. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you next week.